welcome back to ESBR Boxing's YouTube channel. Delighted, as always, to be joined by Danny. We have seen earlier today JUNTO Nakatani keep his undefeated records alive, moving to 29-0 with his 22nd stop of his career, stopping TASANA SALAPAT in Tokyo in the sixth round, becoming only the second man to defeat SALAPAT. Danny, how impressed were you by Nakatani today, 29-0 now?
Yeah, it's not so much impressed by the performance, not that it was a bad performance. I mean, he was an overwhelming favorite going into the fight. I saw odds of 1 to 100 in some places, which is crazy, especially, I mean, this Tasana, Salapat, he's got so many names. He was being like, what is Chit Pana? And then there's like CP Freshmart. So I wasn't actually know what we were going to refer to him as. I'll just call him Salapat because it's the easiest to say. He has an extremely padded record. He was, I think, 75-1, 76-1. The only name I had heard of was Takuma Inoue, who up until yesterday, obviously a world champion as well at bantamweight. So obviously Nakatani was expected to win. He was expected to knock him out, but Salapat was game. He took a couple of heavy looking shots from Nakatani in the sort of first four rounds and wore them well, but the finish was absolutely devastating. He must be, in terms of one punch power, the biggest puncher at the lower weights. I would wager he's a bigger one punch puncher than Naoya Inoue with that left hand. It's just an absolutely devastating shot and a brutal knockout. And yeah, he's a scary dude for sure.
Yeah, look, it was a fantastic. I've seen it was a fantastic stoppage. It was a little while ago now, but I'm still not over that final round stoppage of Andrew Maloney back in 2023, which was yeah, just a scary stoppage. And I think one thing about Nakatani is obviously he's moved up the weights a bit. It was kind of a world champion at flyweight, but he still just looks absolutely massive to me, even for bantamweight. So I would be interested to see what how many more divisions he competes in his career. I feel like kind of often have these sort of questions, Danny, when someone looks unbeatable. Like I just you can with Nakatani, Inoue, Beterbiev, probably Bivol until this week, Opetaya. I want to know, can anybody beat this guy? Like, what has to happen for this guy to lose? Um, I personally think he could be staying at bantamweight for some time. I could be wrong. As you know, obviously, like the rest of the world champions at bantamweight are Japanese. Can you see like a unification fight happening next for Nakatani? Do you think that's likely for him?
I hope so. I mean, there was a lot of talk before Takuma Inoue got beat yesterday that would be next, and if that had materialized, it would have created the perfect storyline for him to then move up and challenge, the big bro Naoya Inoue. Obviously, Inoue lost to Tsutsune yesterday, who I would love to see, and with Nakatani, I would make him a big underdog in that fight. It was my first time watched him yesterday, and yeah, he's a ferocious fighter, throws incredible amount of punches, but a bit lax on the defensive side. I hope that's the fight that gets made next. I mean, this fight didn't really do much for Nakatani. I think I would like to imagine they probably could have got someone a bit better in. No disrespect to the Thai fella whose name I keep forgetting. I hope that a unification can happen. I know Tai has got another belt there, and there's another fella whose name escapes me, but they're all under the Tekken banner. I mean, Nakatani is a big draw in his own right. There was a big crowd there this morning, and you would imagine that would be a big deal in Japan. And even if it's not against Takuma Inoue, which it wouldn't be, you would imagine it still would build a potential mega fight with Naoya Inoue if that is to happen towards the back end of next year.
You s- you sound you sound as if that's a genuine possibility, Danny. Obviously, it would be massive, wouldn't it? It'd be obviously an all Japanese affair, undefeated versus undefeated. Do you think we could see it? How likely do you think that is? That we could see that Inu versus Nakatani in 2025?
I mean, I don't know how likely it is. I mean, as you say, Nakatani looks as if he'd have no problem stepping up in weight again. He's punching harder than ever at bantamweight, and I don't think Naoya Inoue is going to jump straight to featherweight. I think this fight with Sam Goodman looks set to be next for him, which he'll be a big favorite to emerge. And I mean, if it's not Akhmadaliev, who else is it going to be at 122 pounds for now? Anyway, it's the only sort of credible opponent left, which that could happen next year after a Sam Goodman fight, and then that Nakatani fight would be bigger than ever, and it's by far the biggest payday for Nakatani, and I would say it's probably the biggest payday for Inoue too. You know, an all Japanese affair like that, he sells mad tickets anyway, but that could do. I don't know what the biggest stadium in Japan is, but I'm sure it could fill it. The only question mark over why it maybe wouldn't happen is if you're the Honda fella who runs Tekken Promotions, do you want to put your two biggest stars in with each other? I mean, I know that's not the attitude to have, but you know, it's something you have to consider. But I don't think that doesn't seem to be the way they do things in Japan. They match their no problems putting fighters in with each other, undefeated fighters in with each other. So fingers crossed that can happen because I think it's the fight I would like to see most for both men. Maybe aside from a potential Bam Rodriguez fight against Nakatani if he was to move up to 118 pounds, but getting into a lot of if buts and maybes there. But fingers crossed they can happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I think just that one thing about the new age resume, and obviously Nakatani as well now, is they've not had that kind of neither of them have had that mega fight yet. And it's not necessarily their fault, but it's true. Whereas and also one thing that's important to point out is Inouye's that bit older than Nakatani. Inoue is 31, 32 years old now, could only have 2 or 3 years left in the sport. But he's had big fights, but he's not had that kind of the world is watching mega fight yet, in my opinion. And I don't think Nakatani has as well. So whether it's them against each other or getting Bam Rodriguez involved, I hope we see kind of two of the three of those guys fight each other in the next 12 to 18 months, but we'll see. We'll see. Fingers crossed. The way the boxing is now, you hope that these fights are achievable and more possible than ever. All right, we'll leave it there, Danny. We'll see what's next with Junto Nakatani. One of the biggest punches in world boxing, one of the most exciting fights in world boxing, and we will see what he does next. Danny, thank you very much for your time, and I'll speak to you again very soon.
No problem, mate.